Hi there. Welcome back to Pulled Into Letting Go. I'm Mandy Torado. And as always, I got my trusty candle. I guess that's my little thing now. How are you doing this morning? I got my Toe Tech Jess shirt, which if you don't know her, she's an inspirational gal on TikTok. She's on the East Coast, I think North Carolina. I hope everybody doing good. She's a Christian gal. She's a tow truck driver. Her name's Jess, and she is amazing. If you're on TikTok, go check her out. She's really cool. I've got several of her shirts because she's just very inspirational. Fun fact, when I ordered the shirts, her mom called me and said, "Hey, we're out of a certain color that you wanted. Would something else, I forget, be okay?" And I was like, yeah. Oh, I think I had wanted a pink long sleeve shirt. They were out, so they sent me a dark gray one instead. And she's like, "But I do have a pink short sleeve shirt, so I'll send you that." So I have like 4 or 5 of her things. Anyway, with inspirational sayings. Let's get on to the point of the video this morning, though. Well, I guess that's a good point. Finding strength when you feel like you have none. And yes, I'm a little bit tired, mama of 4. It's been a trying couple of days. Where do you find strength when you feel like you have none? When you're either in the middle of abuse, trying to find your way out, you're already out, you're trying to find the strength for healing. Where do you find it? Well, let's go to the scriptures, right? Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Psalm 27:14, and that's the New International Version. Wait for the Lord, huh? Sometimes it's hard to do that when we need strength. I'm going to tell you about these bags under my eyes, and this is going to play into what I'm talking about today. I have 4 kids, and I have one who is entering new milestones. She went to homecoming for the first time to the dance. There's boy drama going on. There's friend drama going on. There's grades are suddenly a huge deal because it's high school. Another one of my kids is just having some, I think, food sensitivities, which is leading to some behavior issues and some acting out and little bouts of violence here and there. So that's been exhausting. Another one of my kids is having some friend drama, isn't feeling well, thinks that they got sick from a friend at school, and is just dealing with puberty and just all kinds of stuff, right? That's 3. The 4th one is sick and refuses to admit that he's sick, but he's 4, almost 5. And I swear, it's like the sicker they are, the bigger the ball of energy inside them, and the more they just want to run around and bounce off the walls. And this has all been going on in the last few days, which is why I'm a little behind in vlogs, because my mama job comes first. And there's been times where I just physically feel like I have no strength, right? Physically. But spiritually and emotionally, mentally, I'm doing okay because I've been waiting on the Lord. I know this is just a season. Just like we have spring, summer, fall, and winter, we have seasons in our lives, whether it's through parenting or our healing, in marriage, in friendships, in our career, in school. Whatever we're doing, whatever we're going through, we have seasons, and we can't fit everything all the time into those seasons. So we have to prioritize. And we have to go to God as little children when we need strength. We go to Him as little kids who rely on their parents for everything they need to survive. And we ask Him for what we need. And I am in a season where sometimes I really have to ask for strength, spiritual strength, because there's been a lot of little battles here and there that I need to pray about. And the same can be said for healing. I remember when I first started my, actually really intensely put focus into my healing journey, I had to ask for a lot of strength because it was hard. Each counseling session that I went to, and generally they're about 45 minutes. You schedule for an hour, but you really only get about 45 minutes. And each 45 minutes session would just deplete me completely of all strength that I had. I remember I was living near Seattle at the time, and my counselor was in the heart of Seattle. And I remember going to my car after each session and just slumping over the wheel for a moment and just praying, God, give me the strength to drive home. Keep me awake, keep me alert, surround my car with your angels, because all I want to do is pass out. And I was fine physically before I went into the session, but it just depleted me. The work that I had to do just depleted me of all strength that I felt that I had. And I was also a new baby Christian at the time too. Oh my goodness, it when you really put everything you have into chasing after God, it's exhausting at first until you really build up your muscles. It is exhausting. And go ahead and expect that. Don't expect that everything's going to be all sunshine and roses at first, because it's not. There's a lot of work you have to do. And God will come alongside you, and it becomes easier and easier to do the work the more that you do it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that life becomes easy. I'm saying the length of time and the amount of strength you have to use per battle, of your own strength per battle, becomes less and less, because you build those muscles of prayer, you build the muscles of Bible study, you build the muscles of reaching out to community, reaching out to God, and you're using less of your own strength each time. So life is not easier, or not, life is not easy, but it becomes easier the more you build those muscles. Let me move that. And then I also want to share with you Philippians 4:13. And surprise, I'm reading a different translation today. I'm reading the Modern English Version. I can do all things because of Christ who strengthens me. You can memorize this in different translations. It may sound a little bit different, but it always means the same thing. Because of the strength that we get from Christ, we're able to do anything that we need to do. Now, in that verse, Paul is in prison, and he's talking about living in poverty, extreme poverty, extremely poor conditions. And yet he's still able to minister to the outside world, outside of those prison walls, which is a difficult thing to do. Very difficult. I can't even imagine what that must have been like. It truly baffles my mind to consider the situation that he was in, and yet he found such joy and such strength in worshiping God and in doing his work. Paul is one of the most inspirational Bible heroes to me, anyway. And I also love David. David has always been, King David, he's always been a favorite of mine too. And obviously Jesus, number one. But I'm just saying, aside from that, their stories are very inspirational as to how they point to God over and over and over again, no matter what they go through, no matter what they do. They always find strength in their relationship with God. And we see it in David's story as well, that he really builds those muscles of relying on God. And his battles never are easy, but the amount of his personal strength he has to use becomes less and less because he relies on God more and more to fight his battles. And it's important to note, and I wish I would have pulled this up. Bear with me here for a moment while I real time. Here we go. That we're not fighting against people. It's not people. I don't have my glasses on. It's not people that we're fighting against. You know, when somebody messes with you, it's not them that we need to get upset with. It's not them that we need to get vengeance from. Ephesians 6:12, New Life Version, reminds us that our fight is not with people. It is against the leaders and the powers and the spirits of darkness in this world. It is against the demon world that works in the heavens. Even my stepdad, I've talked about this before, probably on the blog, I don't think on the vlog, about how he had so much darkness in his life as a child, and he had so much darkness in his life as an adult, and he never brought it out into the light. And even now, he's not really doing that. He kind of dances around it in his faith walk, but it's not fully out into the light, and so the darkness still controls him. And that is how evil things happen when we don't bring it out into the light. One of the most important things that I really hope that people remember from what I've written and what I talk about is that there is no amount of darkness that is too small or too insignificant to need to be brought into the light, to need to be exposed. Let me say that again. There is no amount of darkness that is too small or too insignificant that it doesn't need to be exposed to the light. It all needs to be exposed. That is how we find true healing in Jesus Christ. We have to have healing because without it, we're not whole. Without it, we're going to continue to sin the same sins over and over and over and over again. We're going to keep hurting ourselves, and our wounds are going to become bigger. The same wound, because it'll start to scab over. But then when you sin again, it's like peeling that scab off and going deeper and pouring salt in there. And who wants that for their life? And surely God does not want that for our lives. That's why he sent Jesus. That's why he gave us the Holy Spirit. That's why we have the Bible. That's why we have prayer. That's why we have community, relationship with each other, and relationship with God. We're not meant to live in pain. We're not meant to heal ourselves. We can't. We just cannot. And we're not meant to fight our battles alone. We were never meant to fight them alone. What happens when someone hurts you? And think back to a time before you knew God. Or if you've always known God, think about someone in your life who maybe doesn't know God, okay? And let's play out this scenario. Someone hurts person A, hurts person B, okay? Person B doesn't know God, person A doesn't know God. What's that situation going to look like? They're just going to keep battling back and forth, right? It's just going to become this big ugly mess. We see it in movies, we see it in TV, and we see it played out in real life. It's like a silly two kids on the playground fighting back and forth. Nobody ever wins, but everybody gets hurt, right? Well, when's it going to stop? That's when you bring in The third person, Jesus. And then we begin to see healing. Maybe it's both, maybe it's one or the other, but there is healing and it starts. And the important thing for the person who's healed first, start praying for the other person. I know it's hard. The first time I prayed for my stepdad to be saved, it was weird. It was weird. I felt this calling from God to do it. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so I started. I'm going to pull up some scripture to go along with this. So I started doing it. And I was like, why am I doing this, right? Why am I doing this? This doesn't make any sense. This guy doesn't deserve to be saved. He's a total jerk. Why? Matthew 5:44 reminds us, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And that's the New International Version. That really convicted me. When I read that again, I was like, yeah. And then when we go back around Easter time and we read about Jesus dying on the cross, and he prays for those who put him there. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, he says. It blew me away. It blew me away. I went, okay, all right, God. I'm going to draw my strength from you, and I'm going to pray for this jerk who hurt me so badly, who ruined my life. And God said, nope, he didn't ruin your life. I'm still in it. I'm still in it. I'm not leaving you. We're going to get through this. And your life is just beginning. It's made brand new in me. And so I pray. I don't do it perfectly. I don't do it every day because I don't think about him every day. But I do it pretty often. About as often as I think of him. But it is hard sometimes. It is really hard. And that's a muscle that I'm still building. And that is strength that I am getting from God to do that. I have some friends who, I know one in particular will be watching this and think that I'm talking specifically about her. And I want you to know, hon, that there's several. I have some friends who've been deeply, deeply hurt by their exes. And they have a really hard time praying for them. A really hard time interacting with them sometimes. Because they're just vile. Their behavior towards them is vile. Some are co-parenting, some aren't. Thank goodness. The ones that aren't, there's just some pretty terrible situations there. It's hard to find the strength sometimes. It is really hard. But we have to do it. And our strength comes from God. And I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here, and this should remind you that I'm not a pastor or a professional. I honestly believe that God understands the days when we can't. I really, really honestly believe he is big enough to take our anger on those days, to understand it. And I really believe that it's important that when we feel angry or when we feel really big emotions and we just cannot feel like we cannot do something that he's asking us to do, that we talk to him about it. I have had times when I have went somewhere private And I have just screamed, and sometimes whisper screamed because my kids are within earshot. God, I can't do this. I'm so angry. Why would you ask me to do this? I don't understand. I feel like you're hurting me intentionally, God, by asking me to do this. And I let it all out. I give it to God because He is a safe place to give it to. And then I just sit once I'm spent and I've said everything I need to say. I sit, I grab my Bible, I sit and I wait for Him to talk to me. And He does. And it's always very, very profound. And guess what? I end up doing the thing that He asked me to do that I told Him I couldn't do. Because He gives me a very good reason why. Because He's God. Because He gives me the strength to do it. Because it's the right thing to do for me. Because holding in that anger is like poison for me, even though I'm expecting it to poison the other person. I'm the only one taking it. Because it brings me closer to God. And it releases so much bitterness and poison when I do those things that He asks me to do. It's not just a candle that makes me glow. It's not just the lighting that makes my face glow. It's Jesus. I am crazy in love with Jesus. And I'm not talking about a romantic love. I'm talking about every ounce of me relies on Him, needs Him, loves Him, worships Him. Do I do it perfectly? No. And I never will because I'm human. But I give it all I've got with as much strength as I can muster, and I get the rest from Him. I couldn't imagine living any other way. So, now that I've talked your ear off, I'm going to leave you with this. I love you, but more importantly, God loves you.